Hello, welcome to Callie's Life. Today I'm going to make a tequila lime vanilla spritzer. Also, I'm going to make mock cheesecake little desserts, keto friendly, both the drink and the dessert. Also, I am going to do a variation on the dessert of a normal recipe. The only ingredient that isn't keto friendly is sugar, so I'm going to make one for Chad and I'm going to make one for me. So you can choose whichever recipe you want to follow. First of all, I'm going to make a quick little cocktail, and I'm going to start with a simple syrup, which is truly simple. I have 2 ounces of water here, and I'm just going to put that in my little saucepan. To that, I'm going to add a third of a cup of stevia. If you'd like to use sugar, you just use a third of a cup of sugar. Essentially what you're doing is making a very sweet liquid to add to your cocktail just to sweeten it up. Then I'm going to add just a touch of vanilla extract. And you can play around with it and see how much you like. I just did a dash. And then I have 1 fresh lime. I'm going to just cut in half. One trick to get the juice out of a lime is to roll it around on the cutting board with your hand a little bit just to loosen the skin from it. And then you get one that will go to the juicer a little bit easier. So I'm just going to squeeze some fresh lime juice. You can also use the Simply Lime juice from a bottle. That works just fine. I've also used the lemon as well when I'm in a pinch. It's nice to have a quick mix. You don't always have time to hand juice your lemons, limes, and oranges. So I have about half of this lime juiced really well. After rolling it around on my cutting board, it really loosened up that. So I'm going to go ahead and put that right into my simple syrup. And I'm going to save the remainder for garnish for my cocktail. And we'll just make a couple of pretty little half circles. And we'll just set that on the glass when we're done. So I'm going to take this over to stove, and I'm going to just get a really high heat and get it to melt everything down and let it cool right before I add it to the cocktail. So I do make my own ice. I really like to get these big cubes for cocktails. They they keep your drink really well chilled. I found these little swizzle straws at a thrift shop in Virginia, and I love them. It came with 4 different colors: red, blue, yellow, and like a kind of peachy color. I think I got them for $1, 4 for $1. And my special, so my simple syrup is made and everything is just incorporated. It is just warm to the touch. Tangy and sweet, which is great for a tequila. This is kind of a mock martini. I'm going to use 1 ice cube to give this a nice chill down. When you're shaking a cocktail, you want to make sure that you get a little bit of frost on the outside, and then you know it's done. Now I did call this a spritzer, and I'm going to top this up with a little bit of soda water. I have a soda stream, which makes it really handy to make homemade soda pops, also cocktails, any kind of fizzy beverage. You can use the simple syrup recipe with the soda water for a homemade soda. And just top this off with a little bit of soda water. A simple little garnish. It's almost like a margarita, just a little fizzy. I think the vanilla really adds to the margarita experience. I think it's quite nice. You may want to give it a try. Okay, moving on. Our second little project today is going to be a mock cheesecake dessert, keto friendly, or you can go with the second recipe that has traditional sugar, and that is everybody friendly. So let me just clean up my workspace. Okay, so for this recipe we're going to need an 8-ounce brick of cream cheese, and since I'm making it 2 ways, I'm just going to cut this in half. Okay, so what I figured out works best with doing these split recipes is to just get 2 little containers, and they are deep enough for me to stick my little whisk in there and they don't fly out at you. So I'm going to do the regular sugar version first. So it's about 4 ounces of cream cheese, and I'm going to put a third of a cup of sugar. I'm also going to do the same for the stevia, which is my alternative sweetener method. So a 1/3 cup stevia. Thirsty. It's nice to have a good cocktail and do some cooking. Okay, so I'm just going to whip these up. That one's nicely incorporated. All of the lumps have been spun out. Now, if you are using stevia as well, then I would just suggest maybe putting a towel over the top of your container, because it is a little bit of a flyaway type ingredient like flour. It just kind of puffs right up. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so now that I've got it a little bit incorporated, I don't have to have that little towel on. It just stops the mess from happening. The next ingredient is going to be 2 cups of mixed berries. I have black cherry, strawberry, and blueberry. I'm going to add 2 cups to a little saucepan, and I've put just a dash of water in the bottom of it to give it a little something to boil in. And these are going to cook down until they're soft, and then I'm going to pulse them with my stick blender. And this is going to make a chunky kind of compote, and we're going to add that into the cream cheese. Okay, while I'm waiting for the berries to soften and cook a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and make the whipping cream. I have 1 cup of heavy whipping cream. And I'm also going to put the towel over this until it starts to thicken a little bit, so that I don't throw heavy whipping cream all over myself. Okay, so if you could see the inside of that black towel, I got all speckled with white, which is great because then I didn't get all speckled with white. So you just want your whipped cream to have a nice stiff peak to it. And then we can incorporate half of it into each container. Okay, so I've brought my berries to a boiling point, and now the water is evaporating, which is great. I'm going to pulse this with my hand mixer. It's almost like making jam, just taking the whole berries and cooking them down. So I'm also leaving a little bit of chunky bits so that you get a nice spoonful of fruit every once in a while. You could make this ahead of time so that it's got a chance to cool down, maybe the night before or in the morning before you make it, and just pop it in the fridge after you've... So we're going to let this mixture cool down completely before we incorporate it into the cream cheese and whipped cream, otherwise it'll melt. So put it in the fridge to cool. Let's work on some of the topping ideas. I have, for Chad's version, I'm going to make it almost like a real cheesecake in a cup. And I have some graham crackers here. I'm just going to put them in a Ziploc, and I'm going to break them up a little bit with my hand. And then you can take a rolling pin or something and really get your crumbs nice and fine. Okay, so I have some nice graham cracker crumbs, and I'm going to put it in the bottom of each little dessert. And this recipe makes 8 of these little teacups, which I think is pretty perfect for nice desserts ready to go. And when you buy old china or dishware, they always come with teacups, and not many of us sit down for a cup of tea anymore. So I started using these for desserts, sauces, little accents with nuts or berries and things like that. So when I put out a plate of food, it just kind of makes it look a little bit nicer, and it's a perfect size for desserts. This little cup is 6 ounces, and when you fill it up just below the lip, probably about there where we're going to fill our desserts, it's about a 4-ounce dessert, which is a nice portion. So in the bottom of each of his, I'm just going to put a handful of crumbs.